All right, Zig coming in on the top. Today on the show, we have Russ County Revival, a new blues rock band based out of Northeast Ohio, fronted by a longtime friend, Bob Rosborough. I've known Bob since I started playing out in open mic nights. It's really cool to see him land a solid original project, and they're out gigging. Russ County Revival is playing the Rialto Theater in Akron on December 19th. Also, January 17th, they are playing the Front Street Social in Berea, Ohio. You can see where they're playing next after those two dates if you follow them on the social medias, Russ County Revival on Facebook and Instagram. And albums in the works, recording processes are being thought of. So next time we talk with these guys, it will probably be more than just what's coming up, but we'll be diving into the record maybe. Anywho, I don't just talk with Bob in this interview. In fact, I talk with the whole band. We talk at Russ County Revival HQ, also known as Russ's house. But joining the conversation is Bob, Stu, Russ, and Tim. And we get into the early formations of this project, and it's a lot of fun. If you enjoy the banter and you would like to hear more, if you can like, rate, review, subscribe to the podcast on any of the podcast platforms, it helps me keep talking to cool guests like Russ County Revival and sharing their insights with you. Now, without further ado, this is my conversation with Russ County Revival. And we'll go down the line so everyone knows everyone's name and voice. Cool? So, that being said... I'm going to put that in my back pocket right there, and let's just go around the table. Starting with you, my friend.
Okay, I'm Stu. And I'm Bob.
I'm Tim. I'm Russ. I'm the drummer.
And Russ County Revival. We're at the HQ. Very cool. So, to kind of jump in, my connection with you guys is Bob, and... we go back to like the McCarthy, but even before O'Malley's days, right?
Yeah, that's right. Back in the late aughts, as they were.
Aughts.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Open mic scene and all that.
So, in the kind of set the scene, right, for you guys, I'm sure Bob's talked to you guys about, but just like O'Malley's was like, was there anything before O'Malley's where we met, or was it O'Malley's?
Nothing with, like, when I came into the picture, like, you guys kind of had like a thing with you and George.
Yeah.
Been at the Phoenix for a while.
Right.
And then, like, I had met George through taking vocal lessons with him. But I wanted to start my original band back in the day.
And we're talking about George Hartwig.
George Hartwig, yeah.
Furious George.
Right, Furious George. The man, the myth, the legend. Stu's met him. But yeah, so that's how we came into the picture, and then and then I saw a flyer for him like years later, and I was like, all right, at O'Malley's, and I went and saw him there, and from there went on to McCarthy's, and McCarthy's became like this epic place every Monday for years and years and years, like.
But O'Malley's, to set the scene for like O'Malley's was a hotel, right? It was a hotel bar. And, like, behind the bar, like, where you would go up to the counter of the bar, they had these big round windows, and you can see people swimming in the hotel pool. What was the hotel? Was it, like, a Holiday Inn or something?
Something like it.
Yeah, and, like, so O'Malley's was, like, a really kind of groggy place, to say it nicely. And, like, but it was this really cool open mic night where was that on Monday, too? I feel like that was a Tuesday or Thursday thing.
I don't remember.
I'm trying to remember.
Who knew? I was in college. I didn't know what day it was.
Yeah. And like, yeah. But anyway, so like that's where we met, and you were starting to do original stuff then.
Yeah.
And Cody and I were starting Sea Level then, and we were going there and trying stuff out. And it was just a weird scene because you would just see people's like legs behind the bar.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But before that, to kind of like catch up musically, when did you start playing, and when did you start singing, and like when did music become an outlet for you?
Well,
Bob?
I mean, we all started playing when we were like in our teenage years and everything like that. I just had the bad sense to continue to try to do it for throughout my 20s and into my 30s and now and everything like that. And I mean, I can't say enough about how awesome it is that I put a message out on Bandmix and found. It just so happened to be when Tim was on there, Russ had gotten on there, and Stu got on there, and and we all just kind of like got together. I mean, we were all just like looking for an outlet for music and everything, and you know, I mean, hey, man, the connection we had already established and everything like that was just like this was. It's like this is really awesome, you know. It's just like all right, cool. I knew this was building towards something, you know.
Right.
And now it kind of feels like we're coming in. It's you know, this is kind of it for me and everything like that. Because yeah, I started playing when I was 16 and everything like that. My dad had guitars around the house and everything, and you know, just kind of kept with it. And I was
your dad playing too?
Kinda. He had a hard time when he got older because he had arthritis and everything like that, and he had like you know. He had to get insulin shots and everything for you know, diabetes and everything, and then but so we didn't play too much together, you know, and then but yeah, he would always tell me, hey, you got to learn House of the Rising Sun, you got to learn this Peter Paul and Mary song. I'd be like, Dad, what about Led Zeppelin? They were famous when you were alive too. I mean, you were in the '60s. You don't know Black Sabbath, but he was more into like Bob Dylan and like. I said Peter Paul and Mary.
The folk scene.
You know, Neil Young, and you know, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and then Young left and all that stuff. So I know. So I'd listen to all this stuff in the car and be like, I like the rock stuff, Dad. You know. So we kind of diverged on that a bit, among other things. But
was there a connecting point like? Was like Dylan the connector? Because like the folk music it's a different type of heavy, you know. Folk music is heavy in a different way. Like it's not like it's probably equally as heavy as Sabbath in its own way if you can find the right guy. Was there like a crossover where it was like both Dad and Bob agreed on?
Yeah, probably Bob Dylan. I mean,
Bob Dylan.
It was one of those things. Like I remember him playing it for like on a family car trip or going to see my grandparents on like Christmas Day. It must have been or something. And my sister just be like, he can't. I hate his, you know, but you know, and it being a thing. And I was just kind of like curious about it. More or less, I was just like, I don't like his voice. But then years later, I went back and listened. I was just like, oh wait, but I like his lyrics. So I was like, okay, I finally got it. Like years later,
yeah.
And like I think I said it to him once. I was just like, okay, yeah, I get Dylan now, Dad.
Was he like?
I just don't think you should have introduced it to me when I was 9. I think that was the problem. You know.
Well, it's one of those things. Like you never know how a kid's gonna react to a thing. You know.
Yeah.
Like they may take to Dylan like water. It's weird. Like.
Right.
But you went to school for journalism, correct?
Yeah.
So was there a through line, you think, of kind of having that mind open in that way?
Maybe, yeah. Possibly.
With Dylan? Or was there like did something about writing open up to you before? Like clearly it had to open up to you before to go to school for journalism.
Oh, yeah. Well, writing was the only thing that was just like, well, English class is easy. It's an A+. And other kids would be like, you know, some kids struggled with it. And,
yeah.
And, you know, I was, fortunately, that wasn't one of my struggles. But anyway, but like I bring that now into like our lyrics process. Me and Stu go back and forth on, you know, lyrics all the time, and you know, coming up with stuff off of, you know, what, you know, you guys come up with and everything. I mean, we got a couple of awesome, you know, songs that like, you know, Stu will come up with a lick, Tim will come up with a bass line, you know, Russ will have something, and it's just like, you know, trying to generate lyrics off all, you know, all that stuff. You know, we'll go back and forth, we'll trade off and things like that. Some like probably about half of our lyrics are like our Stu, half of them are at this point and everything like that. And we all have input in the songwriting process, which is really cool.
That is super cool.
And I'm happy to be able to bring that, like, you know, the writer element, but also like when you get traditionally trained on something, I feel like you lose an element of genuineness to it almost.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe. So like I think it's really cool because sometimes I read Stu's lyrics. I'm thinking I wouldn't think to write that. I'm like, but like, you know, then I have like some elements I'm sure I may bring to the table and everything. But like we all kind of have something different to offer. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, Stu, what do you think about Stu? What do you think about that, Stu? No,
Well,
I'm just talking too much.
Right before I
don't-
left the house.
no, it's fine. It's,
Right before I left the house, my wife said, "Okay, now whatever you do during the podcast, don't let Bob talk too much." So I've already failed. So, but yeah, I feel like
For the record, I have thrown it over to him.
thank you, most generous. So yeah, we bounce ideas off each other a whole lot. So Bob will come up with a riff, or some of it is stuff that I think we've had written maybe long ago, maybe for a different project, or maybe something we were holding on to for a while, and we bring it to the table here, and we just work around it. But like Bob said, everybody contributes to it. Tim is really great at coming up with melodic bass lines that are not boring and a little bit more unorthodox. And then Russ is like the king of the unconventional shuffle. So we all get together and we put in the input, and when it feels good, we play it.
well, yeah, and that's the like to have a voice in something, right, makes that unit where everyone feels like they've contributed, which makes the whole unit move forward. You know what I mean? Like if you're not doing that, that's when like everyone kind of starts to find their own projects. Well, I'm working on this, kind of cool disco country funk record that I'm just, I'm just doing the thing. But like, so for everyone to have a say and feel like they have a say is a huge like factor for a band to keep moving in a direction where everyone feels heard and keeps everyone engaged in the project. But so before like kind of expanding upon maybe more specific examples songwriting wise, you said you guys band mix?
Yeah.
Okay, what?
Yeah. So
I don't know what band mix is.
Well, you're on it. No.
Am I on it?
No, I'm just
Okay,
It's a website.
it's a website.
So it's sort of like a musician's classifieds that's probably a little bit safer than Craigslist, but
Okay.
only slightly.
Okay.
I called it a dating app for musicians.
Yeah, because
Back in the 80s, we used to answer
Copyright that.
newspaper ads. Now we answer band mix.
Okay.
Bob who says, "Hey,
we'll have to make you a
with me?"
profile on it and not tell you.
Yes. Why do I keep getting these like
Get a picture
weird
of him.
friend requests?
No, you literally do. I mean, I
Yeah.
still get emails that there's 12 musicians near me this week.
About every Monday, you
Yeah,
usually
on
get
Monday,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I took the
one
free
apart.
version. I'm not like, like a single guy on a dating app where you take the paid version because you're desperate. I was on the free version.
So, question: did you write out like what your email address was, and then you actually wrote the word DOT, com?
Yeah, pretty
That's how you cheat them out of their $19 a month.
Okay, so I mean, I guess the kind of like backtrack, because I know where Bob was coming from. Stu, where were you coming from before this? Like, what was like, was music always on your radar? Were you always like playing guitar?
I grew up in Southern Virginia,
Okay.
and my household was a strict Southern Baptist sort of upbringing.
Okay.
So my father's outlet of music was just something to kind of have on in the background while he cleaned the garage, where my mother was a little bit more in depth to it. I would go through like the records that she had
Yeah.
when she was in high school. Now, she graduated high school in 1961. So the records that she would have in her little stash would be like original Beatles albums.
Yeah.
But there'd also be like the Smothers Brothers and stuff like that. So all of my early musical tastes came from like the late 50s. Okay. So I was Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, that Fats Domino, Roy Orbison. That was sort of like my early influences. I had an older brother that liked a lot of the more modern stuff, but sort of like I would get his musical hand-me-downs, I suppose.
Okay.
So
such as.
he was Steve had a really eclectic group of like what he listened to, because you could go through like his cassette tapes and it would be like AC/DC, Slayer, Metallica, Mariah Carey, so it was really interesting.
Yeah.
And but my mom played piano and my father played organ, and I guess I get my musical tastes from my mother, more or less. I remember probably the desire to start playing music was pretty early on. I remember like, having birthday money saved up, and I was like, hey mom, can I buy a guitar? And every year it was like, no, you can't buy one. Next birthday, hey mom, I got this money saved up from birthdays. Can I buy a guitar? And she's like, no, not this year. And then, hey mom, can I buy a kit of drums? And she's like, wait a minute, what was the first thing you wanted? And I was like, a guitar. She's like, okay, you can get that.
It took the switcheroo.
Yeah, reverse psychology. And then she brought home an old beat up Harmony acoustic that I believe her boss gave her, and I still have it.
Nice.
And it's probably from the 40s or 50s. But and from then on, I just my early musical tastes was probably like a lot of high school kids back in the early 90s. A lot of Metallica. Some of the more popular stuff that was going on back then. I kind of discovered Jimi Hendrix really early. Yeah. And that put me in a frame for getting more into like blues and R&B. My mother was a big Motown fan. So I was always a fan of like Temptations and Smokey Robinson and stuff like that. So I guess I've got a big, I guess my influences, it's pretty wide range.
Gotcha. Did you always play left-handed?
I tried to learn right-handed.
Okay.
When I first got
that harmony guitar
into it. And my mom took me and basically would just drop me off at the local music store. And growing up in
figure it out.
Growing up in Pennsylvania County, Virginia, the only thing you have is two types of music, country and bluegrass.
Okay.
So
Western's gone.
Yeah, Western's kind of gone. Well, it's more like gospel and bluegrass. Yeah. And my first teacher was like, no, I can't teach you how to play it that way. Why are you playing it upside down? It's like, no, you got to play it the right way, the right-handed way.
Right.
So I struggled trying to learn how to play it right-handed. And then after a while, it was like, nope, this isn't happening. I can't do it. So I took the guitar home, put it in the closet, and gave it up. And then I came home from school one day to find that my brother had pulled my guitar out of the closet and had restrung it left-handed and was trying to learn how to play chords on it. And after he kind of gave up, I picked it back up again. And then, around the same time, I probably discovered Jimi Hendrix. But my left-handed influence, probably that I cut my teeth on, was Tony Iommi.
Okay.
So I was a huge Sabbath fan.
Right.
So I usually say that Tony Iommi taught me how to play guitar.
So, like, are you left-handed?
Yes.
Okay. Is your brother left-handed too?
Yes.
Okay.
Certain things, yes. Like I write left-handed. I play guitar left-handed.
Right.
Everything else is right-handed. That's weird.
Huh.
But yeah.
So, all right. And is that the same with your brother too?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, because like to want to flip it, string it backwards. That's kind of thinking ahead in a lot of ways. Like if you don't know anything about the instrument and like there wasn't like just open accents to you can flip it like this, access to flipping it like this. You know what I mean? Unless you're like looking at someone like Hendrix or something,
Well, he was about 3 years older than me, and by the time I never could catch up with him musically. I was always like a couple of steps behind.
Yeah.
So by the time I got into classic rock, he was no longer into classic rock. He was into something else.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I think the Hendrix thing probably influenced him to flip the strings around. It wasn't until like much later that I found like certain blues guitar players did the same thing. And really what Hendrix was doing as far as that was concerned wasn't necessarily that unorthodox.
Right. Like Albert King.
But
he played left-handed. Like he was like...
Well, he had a left-handed guitar that was strung right-handed.
Right.
But it was left-handed. Yeah, weird. So.
But those bends.
Oh, yeah.
But all right. Well, let's keep like the kind of history building up. And Tim... Let's talk about.
Wake him up, Bob.
Come on, Tim. Well, let's dive into like your musical background. So
I was born in the '60s. Music was in my family all the time. My grandpa played guitar. My uncles played guitar. I had tape players, reel-to-reels, 8-tracks, everything. Tommy James and the Shondells was the beginning of it.
Yeah.
When I was a baby.
Okay.
And when I first heard that distorted guitar on that solo, that was it.
Which tune?
The Crimson and Clover.
Crimson Clover, yeah.
So, and after that, anything with the distorted guitar, I was into.
Okay.
So then elementary school, started playing violin. I did that all the way up until I graduated. Dabbled around with the bass after that.
Yeah.
Never really took any lessons on bass. I don't know. I can't read any bass music. I don't really know where the notes are, nothing like that.
Yeah.
And then got married, had kids, sold everything that I had, all the musical gear, and then after the youngest one turned 18, I picked up the bass again, and
Okay.
met
All right.
these guys, and that's it.
Why the bass in particular? Why not the guitar?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
All
don't
right.
know. I just like it. I just love it.
Okay, cool. I mean, it's interesting because like once you get the physics of guitar, you know what I mean? Like the bass comes pretty naturally, and like there's like it's a different headspace to be in when you're playing bass, like related to a group or a band. Like you're leading a lot of different things. Like
I always gravitated toward it in songs.
yeah, okay,
Listen to it in songs. Mike Vale from Tommy James and the Shondells
is the guy.
is my guy.
What is it?
That's my guy.
Everyone like Tommy James. Like there's a lot of good tunage from them, man. Like
He's got some great bass lines. They
Yeah.
fight against the songs, but they fit.
right.
It's weird.
But that's an interesting way because sometimes like you want the bass to stick out, but also in the way that kind of like brings it all together, you know. So because when the bass sticks out in a way, you hear it and it draws your attention to want to do that or appreciate. Like I personally find myself using bass as like the key to figure out most stuff. If I'm trying to figure out something from the rip, before even worrying about what type of chord it is, I'll try to figure out the bass note to build the chord. You know what I mean? Build the chord off of, and like, but when the bass line kind of like alters and sticks out in weird ways that serves the song but also sticks it out, it's a really like unique thing. Not too many players can do that without kind of taking over the song.
He kind of tried to take it over.
Yeah, he was the
tried to
take it over guy. All right.
Yeah, he tried
I've
to
never
take it
looked
over.
into like what was I remember playing was it Hanky Panky? Didn't they have a tune called Hanky Panky?
Yeah, but he didn't actually play on that song.
He didn't play on that song.
No,
okay.
that song
Slaps though. That like even not slaps bass, but that's just a rocking tune.
Yeah. Get this. So Tommy James was in Michigan, and it was a cover band that recorded that song, and he sang on it.
Okay.
And he gave up music. And then a copy of that song ended up in a DJ's bin in Pennsylvania, and he played it, and everybody went crazy for it. He didn't even have a band.
Huh.
So the band, he went to Pennsylvania to meet the DJ, met this band called the Raconteurs or something like that, and they became the Shondells.
Okay.
So you're saying there was a band called the Raconteurs before the Raconteurs?
It was
ones?
Jack White's
Yes.
great grand. No.
Sorry, I
And
just
it
had
was
to interject
actually-
that right there, make sure I had that right.
And it was actually the Shondells.
Dang, which is still like an epic rock and
I
roll
know
twist.
way too much about that band.
That's
To be
awesome,
honest
though.
with
It's
you, man.
basically who gets the copyright first.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like everyone in this room could go that in depth with another band. You know what I mean? Like part of like diving into like music is finding that one group that you just want to emulate, and that slowly that process of trying to figure out someone else's thing is a self-revealing your thing. You know what I mean? Like the process of becoming yourself is slightly through someone else. All right. But as you do that, you don't nerd out less on the thing that got you into it, you know? Like that's the reason I'm doing this right now is because I took the nerding out to a next level where I pester the bass players. You know what I mean? Like,
I think the nerding out kind of led us to doing original stuff because we kept wanting to do deep cuts from bands. Right. It's like well, forget the whole thing because we originally started out thinking we were going to be a cover band, and then we kept talking about that and kept trying different things, and then
It was like one person wrote one song or wrote a riff, and we started working on that. And it's like, we'd go back to playing the cover song we were trying to learn last week, and it was like, hey, what was that thing that you were playing? Oh, this. Oh, yeah. And then next thing you know, we have one song. A couple of weeks later, we got 3 songs, and then, and now we have 10,
now it's a record.
Now it's a record.
Hell yeah.
Looking at EPs now. But yeah, that's how it happened.
Shift gears.
Yeah.
Right. Well, part of but that initial spark, you know what I mean? Because like as you're doing that, like I've done a lot of gigs where I've ended up DJing a lot of Tommy James and the Shondells, and so I've listened to those tunes a lot. So it's like when you get into like this kind of thing, you just like, what was going on with these guys at that time? Like today, I just
a ton of drugs.
Right, I'm sure. I'm sure it was a ton of drugs, but like,
They did drugs in the 60s?
what?
Oh yeah, a lot of it.
What?
A
Never
lot
heard
of
of
it.
this.
Yeah, so then growing up in the 70s, there was disco everywhere and polyester, and that kind of sucked.
Yeah,
And then
you're a bass player though, so it was Bass City.
yeah,
I mean,
but
as far as
I wasn't into that at all. At my first concert, like one of my first records that I got was Kiss Alive.
yeah,
And then, I'm 5-6 years old, and I'm jamming out to Gene Simmons and all this. And then the first concert, my parents take me as Andy Gibb. And it was just, the 70s was horrible.
For those in the audience, who was Andy Gibb?
I don't even know who Andy Gibb was.
Right.
He was one of the Bee Gees brothers. Yeah, the younger brother. He ended up dying of a
Right.
drug overdose.
For the young kids in the audience, definitely not me.
But then growing up in the 80s, and I got into metal and the hard rock and everything, and that was great. And then doing all the tape trading and checking out the other bands and not having the internet and having to read crap about bands. And then
yeah,
you actually had to go buy the music.
right.
If you wanted to know what that band was about.
I think that helped me grow as a musician because my mother, when I was getting serious about playing guitar, my mother got me a subscription to Guitar World back when it was still in its
yeah.
phases. And I remember I'd come home from school and I'd see it like rolled up in the mailbox and I'd go and grab it and I would read interviews with guitarists who kept talking about how they were influenced by Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and Freddie King. So then my young mind was like, well, if I listen to what my influences listen to,
Yeah.
then I can get their godlike musical talents.
Right.
So now, okay, I got to go to the record store and try to find a Howlin' Wolf, cassette. And for the lady that I'm going to high school with, looking at me from behind the counter going, you're trying to find who? It's probably in that corner. Yeah, you might have to move those towels,
Yeah, I did the same thing, but there was so much good music I got into because of that.
It's interesting as you peel back the layers of the thing you like to kind of see like the primary colors that are used to paint the thing. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Like I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. Like you start with like, I don't know, fill in the blank, and Jimi Hendrix, right? And you learn about Howlin' Wolf, and you learn about Muddy Waters, and you start to see where he started the phrase like that presented in a very like clear way. Because when you get the guy who mixes all the colors, it's a little muddled, right? You're really trying to figure out where everything's coming from. But when you dive into those influences, it's very clearly, oh, that's the Howlin' Wolf thing that everyone says Jimmy does. You know what I mean? Or Hubert Sumlin, like at that point. But yeah, no, I totally relate to that. And like, I think that's one thing that's really cool about music is it's one of those things where you wear your influences like a t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like if you can talk about who you're influenced by, you can, yeah, Lemmy over here. If you talk, it's not as like a thing where it's like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. It's more of a celebrated thing, I think. Well, and that's if, and some people don't. Some people are really like I played in this band that opened up for Greta Van Fleet, and those guys would. So I played bass in that band, and it was a band called Hamilton Handshake. And those guys, I didn't know who they were at that time because they were just kids. You know what I mean? Like, and we get there, and I'm the first guy there, kind of being like, I'm the one representing here. They'll be here before the show starts. Yeah, that's me. And like, yes, and like. I'm like, oh, there's a bunch of like kids here. And I'm like, what kind of music do you like? And they would say everything but Led Zeppelin. Like, you know what I mean? Which is like, you guys. After I heard them play, I'm like, what are you talking about? Come on now. Like,
it's kind of obvious at that point.
yeah. But anyway, speaking about Lemmy, Russ, we haven't talked to you at all, man. How's it going?
Fabulous.
Fabulous.
Glad to have you in the house.
Thank you for having me in the house in
He is the owner and
HQ.
proprietor.
That's right.
It's establishments.
Someone has to do it. But let's kind of get into your musical journey.
Oh God.
So, was it a thing that started around the family, like we've heard so far?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Polar opposite.
All right.
My family my sister would bang around on the piano at a young age, and that was it. That was all the music in the whole house ever.
Sick.
Dad couldn't do anything. Mom, nothing. My mom sang, I guess, in the church choir, but it was. And then after sports kind of failed me because my body stopped growing and I was kind of bad at everything. I just wanted to be good at like something.
Yeah.
And I had some friends that were into music. I started getting more and more into like Metallica, Zeppelin, Sabbath, things like that. And so I was like, all right, let's do this band thing. So in high school, I was in a heavy metal kind of rock and roll band. We weren't necessarily good, but we were all right. And we had fun. We played out a few times, and then we all went off to college. So we all split up. It was,
Were you on drums?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
a drummer.
Okay.
I didn't have I couldn't play music to save my life. I think I've taken 6 drum lessons, and I have no tone ability. I can't read music. So it's all just whatever I learned. So
It's all feel.
I went off to college at Ohio State, and a couple jobs later, I was out of the country, out of the state, traveled around, didn't play drums for, I don't know, almost 19 years probably.
Yeah.
So 19 years later, fast forward, COVID.
Yeah.
They basically canceled the Browns season, so I cashed in my season tickets and was like, what should I buy with this money, this windfall? New drum set. So I got a DW Dream, at the time, Dream kit, 7-piece DW with a rack. I wanted to be a heavy metal drummer. I was like, this is great. So then I'm at the Twilight at the Zoo with friends. And
Yeah.
there's all these cover bands. Have you ever been? It's great.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
all these cover bands playing, and I said to my buddies, I was like, man, it'd be really cool if I could just be in a cover band. I would love to do this. This is so cool.
Right.
They're like, dude, it wouldn't be that hard. And so that Monday, I got up and put my name on Band Mix.
Yeah.
And he called me Bob called me like a week later.
Yeah.
And
Well, you put your name up there as a drummer.
Yeah,
You're
it
gonna be.
Yeah, they did. And so there was a couple iterations of a group, and then at one point it was just me, Bob, and Tim. And he's like, I met this other guitar player, Stu. And I think when Stu came into the picture is when we really started figuring out what we wanted to do, because we added the extra permanent guitar, and he had the roots of like Creedence and Sabbath. Mm-hmm. Me being a Led Zeppelin, Sabbath junkie, like it just was like cool. And then kind of like Bob said earlier, like we just started, they just started playing things that they had worked on and played. And all of a sudden we're just like making songs, and it's way more fun than covering songs.
Oh, for sure.
And then, I realized that I did not want the drum set that I had, so I bought another one
Yeah.
that is much closer to a John Bonham set.
The one I saw in the basement, is that the one you got?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a big kit. Holy
that's-
shit, man. That's definitely a bottom. What is it? It's a Ludwig, right?
No,
it's a Gretsch. It's a Gretsch.
Yep, it's a Gretsch. It's
All about the
it's
Gretsch.
a beautiful color that probably only I like, but that's okay.
It's a nice, like, cotton candy blue.
Powder blue.
Powder blue. Okay, okay.
So anyway, that's
Don't get that wrong.
that's my whole history, and here we are.
Well, all right. So, just the kind of a couple drum lessons, right? To join a band, it's not just, there had to be a bit more too. So, were you like shedding a lot with those few things, or like were you learning tunes to a radio? Like, how were you like kind of like absorbing it yourself? Because even no matter what band you're playing in, as a drummer, you got to know you're kind of navigating everybody.
I was fortunate. So my personality is such that I will do whatever it takes to make the group succeed.
Okay.
So I will chameleon. if you guys tell me, and that's why it doesn't matter what genre we play. We can like
Right.
we have like a song called that we don't really play, but it's called Dr. Funkenstein, and it's
That sounds
Played
amazing.
that like a year.
and it sounds like
How it goes.
Tim plays it
elevator
every time.
/ like intro to a porno music.
Oh yeah, that
I mean, we really
That's
like
apparently what we called it.
we don't care about genres and stuff, and I'll just play whatever. So if these guys write something, I'm like, okay, I like that, and I'll do something what I think can be all right. And then a lot of times Stu will just be like, try this instead. Okay, if that makes the song better, we'll try it.
She was a drummer as well.
Well, no, I have a drum kit and I play on it, but I don't necessarily call myself a drummer. Russ is a drummer.
Left-handed playing on a right-handed kit because
Oh, yeah, that
I
goes back.
learned right-handed. That was the kit that I played on in high school was right-handed, so that's what happened.
Okay, so also left-handed. Okay, all right. Are you left-handed too?
I am not.
Okay.
No, he's left-handed. He's left-handed.
Yeah.
And Tim's gone.
Tim's ambidextrous, right?
Yeah, I'm both.
Really?
Are you really?
Damn.
Yeah.
Should
I
have
just
gone.
made that up. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm boring. I'm just right-handed. Sure.
I know, I
When
feel
swing a
left
baseball
out.
bat, I can only swing from my left side. I can't swing from my right,
So the only skill
but I can
that's-
do evering else both sides.
yeah,
Huh.
The only skill you always ever hear about being, ambidextrous for, switch hitting.
Right. Yeah,
The one
and
you
I
don't got.
can't do it.
And that's why he's not playing for the Guardians.
It's
There
for
you
a
go.
different podcast.
That's
though.
the absolute only
only
reason
reason.
why
It's
the
he's
only
not
one.
playing for the Guardians.
Yeah.
That's it.
True story. Okay, so all right, which it's interesting, like kind of coming from all these different backgrounds, but having kind of the roots in like the Sabbath and the Zeppelin and like the actual playing of it. So when you were playing in a band before that, like before you went to school, right? And so everyone had. Did you, Stu? Did you have some band influence before playing with everyone here?
Not for a very long time.
Yeah.
I moved up here in 2000,
Okay.
and that was actually between 2000 and maybe 2001.
For what
and,
for?
And until maybe post COVID,
Okay.
till I got with these guys, I think I had played with one cover band, and we may have done a few gigs, and I think I played bass.
Okay.
But my nothing that I put into any kind of like time or anything like with us. I mean, COVID came around, and after COVID, it was actually like my wife's idea. She was kind of like, well, you haven't played in the band in forever, and you don't really do anything as far as like your music, just, playing around the house. So why don't you get out and try to find some other guys to play with? And,
Right.
And, it's like, oh, that's awesome, So, she's been like really supportive of it. So, but in my early 20s, yes, I was playing in bands like constantly. Usually I would be in a few bands at one time.
Were they original cover stuff?
Most of it was covers.
Okay.
I did do originals here and there. There was a time when I kind of had given it up and had just gone into like covers and just trying to be a
Sorry, I thought there was a bug over there.
I know,
saw,
like,
I
I'm
saw
looking
Tim
at him,
I was
flaring.
watching the Cavs over his shoulder.
is he having a conniption again?
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
Of course, listening to every word Stu says.
Yes,
We
I'm
we
sure.
really are.
Agree.
I'm actually learning quite a bit. It's awesome.
Mostly cover bands.
Gotcha.
In my past, I have sat down. I've had musical friends that I've sat and wrote things with before, but this is probably a much more organized. And obviously, I'm older now, so I can take a lot of what's influenced me from the time I was in my early 20s to now, to kind of throw into this group too. So. Yeah, but other than this group, it's been mostly cover bands.
And Dave, you're asking why he moved up here. He moved up here. Actually, Stu's been a Cleveland fan a lot longer. I give him super credit for this because,
Right.
As Clevelanders, man, like when somebody comes here and it's just like, I just gotta like Cleveland. It's like
Yeah.
from somewhere else. It's like you look at them like they have four heads. It's like
I-
listen, I got Stockholm syndrome. I don't know what you're doing.
I grew up in the 80s and early 90s, and I was always a big Indians fan.
Okay.
So I
okay,
never
okay.
had been to Cleveland or Ohio, let alone Ohio, until I was like 22, 23. And so it was like, I didn't necessarily think I would ever move up here, but yeah, when I was a kid, I was ever since like, I think Major League came out in like 86, 85. And after I saw that movie, I was like
89.
89.
89, was it?
Gosh, I'm a little bit, okay. After that movie, I was like, okay, I'm an Indians fan,
Okay.
I don't care if they're, how well they play. And then I remember like when they made the series back in 95.
5 and
Thank
7.
you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Playing
I'm
against the
like the
Braves.
only guy. I'm the only guy in like a 90-mile radius
Yeah.
that's not rooting for the Braves.
Ah.
Yeah. I got lynched.
But all right. So you just came to Cleveland because you were a fan of Cleveland,
Well, I mean, it was.
or just to get out of the situation
Well,
you're in?
I was in a town where no job, no prospects,
Okay.
and it was an idea to move up to a different place
Okay.
and probably start all over, and that's what I did.
Gotcha. Well, that's a scary thing to kind of jump into a whole new place on your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Like, did you know anyone here?
I had some friends that had lived in Virginia that had
Okay.
moved up here, and yeah, I mean, it was intimidating, and I moved up here, and then eventually I moved to Cleveland.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, people will ask me, it's like, have you ever thought about like, moving back to Virginia? And I said, well, yeah, 20 minutes after I got up here, when I looked down, my suitcase was gone.
Did that really happen?
No, it didn't.
Okay. Damn, I was gonna be like,
That was a great story though. But
yeah, that would have been super cool. That's like your Bob Dylan narrative. He was like, I was stuck here then. They had my keys.
hid my keys.
But you moved up here by yourself?
Yes.
Okay. That's it's to move, just to make that plunge. It is a really scary feat. You know what I mean? So what did you find yourself doing here at first? Was it?
I worked a lot of odd and end jobs, and originally, it was to come up here to go to school.
Yeah.
And
What for?
Originally was, my original major I think was like criminal justice. So I was going into some sort of law enforcement or legal field, not necessarily practicing law or anything like that. But,
Yeah.
that was my original intent. And then after a while, it was kind of like, well, I kept putting off school and would work, and other opportunities I made a lot of mistakes, but eventually I found, a job at a company that I could grow with. So, and now I'm going on 21 years with them. So,
Damn. Nice.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
And then I met my wife, who's actually from Boston.
Yeah.
And, we've got 2 kids, and, so now it's like, this is my home now. I feel like I have deeper roots here than I do back home, but I still have friends back home that are dear to me that I talk to, all the time. But I feel like I've planted more roots here than back home, or what was home.
Right. Well, it's interesting too. I guess what's cool about that is you chose it, right?
Yeah.
Like not knowing if it would last or not, or if roots would grow. But that's really cool that it panned out.
There's probably about at least 10 times where I thought, well, it's not working out, I guess I'm moving back,
Yeah.
But I never
For sure.
did.
It's winter. It's cold.
Yeah, it's winter. Wait a minute, snow in October? It's like, this is weird.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. But there's been a couple of times where I was like, maybe I should move back. It's like, no, I'm gonna tough it out and see what happens.
Because it's also like the idea of jumping into something and kind of creating it from the ground as opposed to something you're comfortable with, right, from home in Virginia, knowing what you can do there and how you can grow there. It kind of, in a long stretch of a thing, is similar to doing the original thing compared to the cover thing, right? Where like you can get together and play the covers, you know how to do that, and everyone can do that. But there's something exciting and something that brings more life and, and to use what you said, more roots in feel to doing your own thing, right?
Well, probably for about our first year or so playing, Bob and I, or sometimes we would all go out like on a Friday night or Saturday
I think
night.
didn't you come out to my Mike night once?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And we would go out and check out like local bands and see, okay, well, what songs are they playing? And it's like, and then sometimes we would come up with an obscure NXS song to cover.
Yeah.
And then Bob's calling me up before I even get there going, man, they're
Everybody
playing this song.
started doing it.
I know, right?
Everybody started.
Yeah.
I was like, I've never heard this song.
song.
And then
Until
literally
Tim,
after we started learning it, I'm like,
What song was it?
it was Don't Change.
Don't change.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Don't change.
And
Now
it's like-
everybody's got it in their set list.
Yeah, I grew up in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I never really, I was always Suicide Blonde and,
Right.
Devil Inside. I never
Yeah.
even knew that one when that was an earlier hit. And we going out and Bob's sending me texts going, the band just played Don't Change. And I'm like, is it really that? Yeah,
It
is
wasn't
it
that I didn't
really?
like. All right,
No,
I'm
it's not
because
that we didn't like.
Not that I didn't
Yeah.
like the song. It was just like I had literally never heard it, and I'm like, where have I been?
Now you only hear. It's crazy
Yeah.
how that.
I'd never heard of it till
everywhere.
until we started playing it.
I'm just like, wow.
Did so what were some of the few, and were you guys joining them on the adventures, checking out the local bands?
Some of them.
Yeah. Who were some of the bands you guys were checking out?
Oh, let's see. Why should the first?
out of this conversation.
Why should the first time we
The narrative.
yeah.
Bob and I went to see Clutch.
Yeah, we
together.
went to see Clutch.
Sick.
Like
Clutch is sick. Yeah, dude.
They were
very early on. I
not
mean,
not at a local place. No,
no, it wasn't. So
That's at the Agora.
yeah,
no,
That's
that wasn't.
pretty local.
well, it's
Yeah.
local, but
It's not a local band.
It's not the local bar.
Yeah,
at
yeah, yeah.
in Strong.
It's our local like sick historic venue. like,
yeah.
like, but okay. So Clutch, but like, what are some other bands? Like, because
Oh, yeah, Speed Rail we saw earlier. Goody and the Gospel. We saw the Brown Liquor Band too with them and Buffalo Riders. That was a good one.
Yeah,
The problem
Buffalo
that we
Riders.
have with going, we want to see bands. We always are like talking about, it's like, dude, check this band out, check this band out, and everything like that. We all like have, I don't know. It sounds lame, but we have, when you get older,
commitments.
We have
hard.
jobs.
Yeah,
families.
commitments. Yeah, yeah,
it's harder.
yeah.
Although it's just like the Muddy Water Band, I think that we saw the other day, and
The Mudhouse Gang.
Mudhouse Gang.
Yeah, that we
The
went and
Mudhouse
saw
Gang.
them and talked to them. They were really good.
Mudhouse
Yeah.
Gang. I mean, like we've been following Wake Magnolia for years. My old band used
They're
to
cool.
play with them.
Yeah, yeah.
We used to play with when they were in the Abstract and everything. But yeah, I mean, we love like blues, hard rock, and like a lot of grunge influences. I don't
Yeah.
know if those have come through yet in our music.
No, for sure. Well, knowing you, like I
Right,
hear
yeah.
those influences in you, Bob.
Right.
So, and from the Negative Space show, I definitely hear that grown out, right? like,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, we'll come up with something and it'll be like totally blues, rock, gutter kind of sound. And I'll talk to Bob and be like, okay, Bob, I want you to sing this. Just like Chris Cornell from like one of those early Soundgarden albums.
no problem, Bob.
Yeah,
says.
yeah. Bob's like,
I got
yeah,
the
man, I
4
got
octave
you.
range, Sure, yeah, right, that'll work.
Easiest vocals to ever.
Easiest
Yeah.
vocals,
No.
no problem. And Bob does it. Like
It's like, guys, I
champ.
can do Eddie Vedder. Chris Cornell, I'd love to be able to. He's my favorite singer of all time. But,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But unfortunately, I'm more Vedder, which is a good thing. We got Pearl Jam fans.
If I get drunk enough, I can do Johnny Cash.
Everybody. can do
Well,
Johnny Cash.
this podcast has to
If I
take a
can-
new turn.
If I
Here
get
we
drunk
go.
enough, I can do Roseanne Cash. Sometimes Russ and I will do a duet.
It's real bad.
It's not that bad.
I'm sure it's. Oh my gosh. Shit. But okay, so like, I don't even know how to turn that one around.
But it only swings one way, okay?
But anyway, so I think that's at that point where you guys like, were you just scoping it out to see what covers not to do, or like how to kind of be an original group? You know what I mean? Like, or was
think
it
we
just a
kinda
bonding thing as a
we
band?
just kind of like settled on songs that we all liked,
Okay.
Yeah.
and that was it.
Yeah.
And we spent a lot of time working on L.A. Woman.
Yeah.
we did.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
A lot of time
We
working
we
on
I
that.
think it was good. Or it is good.
we spent a lot of time with that. And, you know, out of all of the obscure Doors covers that you could do, I feel like we picked like the hardest one.
Well, that one's interesting because
time
it's
changes,
right.
Time changes are so crazy.
And it's like a vamp for a huge chunk of it.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like,
But
dun,
it's
dun,
so much
dun,
fun
dun,
to
dun,
play.
dun, 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 dun. Yeah, when you lock it in, you know, it's a sick tune. But like you're coasting at this thing that feels steady, right? And then it just shifts.
And then somewhere in the middle, there's like a bossa nova beat.
Right.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
And we're always like telling ourselves, it's like, well, hey, if we go see a cover band and they say, well, they play Door songs, I guarantee they don't play LA Woman, you know, because they're sane, you know.
Yeah.
You say that, but we know what can't change.
But I think I wanted to go see other local bands because I kind of wanted to have something to compare to.
Okay.
Because Bob had experience, Stu had some experience playing out. I didn't. I mean, I had high school rock off experience.
Right.
So that's not like I don't know. I don't even remember it really. And I want to just compare. And so once we started seeing some other bands, I was just like, okay, I think we can hang with that. So cool.
It's interesting when you go out and kind of see it and see how kind of approachable it actually is, especially having some practice before or some experience before. Because, like, I feel like at that college age, like, it seems like almost impossible with just the amount of everything else you have to commit to at that time if you're going to school, right? Or just the impossibility to find the magical people that have nothing else to do like you do. You know what I'm saying? That can commit to that time.
Yeah. It's a
Like,
magical time, guys, before you have all the commitments. I mean, not to say that college kids don't have commitments, but
right.
you know.
No, it's a different type of commitment, right? But and I guess maybe like that brings up a good point. It's always commitment regardless, right? So it's like always that sense of time management and like sense of like trying to make it work, right? So like I guess so practically like for you guys, right? How does that pan out? Does it pan out for the Wednesday nights that we're hanging out right now? Is when rehearsal is for a few hours? Is it like sending files, studying tunes, like?
Yeah, a little bit of that. We take it. It's all about coordinating. I mean, generally it's going to be Wednesday or Thursday. One of those nights, if we can make them work, we're going to make them work.
Yeah.
During the week and everything like that. But it's hard though because it's like I mean, I got a young family at home. Stu's got family. Russ is just newly married, by the way. Congratulations.
Congratulations,
Russ.
Russ.
We were all at the wedding, supporting him and everything, and
And work gets in the way for me. I mean,
oh yeah,
works, all the time. So
Yeah.
it's just like anybody else. You just fit in what works, and that's the cool part. Is we're very flexible. Sometimes it's just three of us. Sometimes like they get together on the side and write stuff and play.
Yeah.
And then we come here and mix it all together. I always tell people, it's just a fun night of the week. There's some nights where we probably drink more beers than we actually play songs. There's other nights where we come in and it's like, holy shit, where did that come from? Why were we so awesome tonight? The practice that we last had was one of those, and I was like, where did that come from? We hadn't played in 2 weeks, and we just got together and just cranked out songs, and it was like, there it is.
Yeah.
So it varies, but it's fun.
this has
And-
been the most consistent band I've ever been a part of, as far as everybody being together and on a weekly basis and being committed and everything. It's really awesome.
I think that helps it because we're very consistent, but we all have really kind of laid back attitudes about it. So one of the issues that I always had in previous bands, I mean, now obviously we're talking years ago, excuse me, but one of the things that I always had problems with is you'd always have an ego trip. You'd always have one guy that was just so good that you just bared with him instead of just letting him go and just finding somebody else that you could just tolerate, where we all get along really well and there's really no ego trips or anything. And this is probably one of the first bands I've ever been with where we really didn't have any like divas or prima donnas in the group. Everybody chips in. Tim can be a little demanding sometimes, but I mean,
As bass players can.
as bass players can be. We try to cheer him up though.
Oh,
But,
shit. Throwing Tim under the bus. Here we go. This is a new segment called...
I got the wine you like.
No, but I think that's the fun of it.
Yeah.
It's that, when we first got together and it was like, okay, well, we're going to cover this song. And it was like trying to appease everybody, except when we started writing, it was like what Russ said. This is so much more fun.
Right.
And I always feel like, well, with playing with this group, I feel kind of like, well, I mean, we could go get a gig, a 3-hour gig at some bar someplace,
Sure.
every other weekend or whatnot. And it's like, but, or we can sit and write and then play a really kick-ass gig, once a month or, once every quarter of a month or something like
Right.
that, and I feel like that overall the payback is so much more.
For sure.
Because you're putting in so much input into it. And yeah, especially when people, come to see us and they enjoy like what they're hearing and we get the feedback from the audience too.
Right. Well, and like to put in like, that's cool that you kind of had the cushion of like, okay, we have songs we all like to play. We can do this together as a group. But to trick everyone into being original, holy shit, it worked. You know what I mean? But like,
And then people start liking them, and it's just like, oh.
well, that's
it
Other
just
people
kind of
like it too.
happened.
Right.
It just happened.
which is that's how you know it that's how you know it's going to work, because everyone kind of set the ground for what they like, but also accepting because the original route is a much harder, arduous
It can be.
It as far as if we're going to put all this time in and make money back, when you're doing the original thing, it doesn't happen.
You have to sideburn that.
You have to
that's not
sideburn
gonna
that for a
happen.
long
That's the
time,
hard thing
man.
with covers,
I know
just
what
like sometimes it
triggered it
is
for
about
me.
money. Yeah.
I know what triggered it for me, and it was that damn Let It Be thing that they had on Disney, about the Beatles.
Yeah.
And watching Paul McCartney
Just come up with stuff right on the
out
fly.
of the air, screw you, dude.
Yeah.
I feel some
I was
tension.
like, man,
We're not going to get into that
I was
Beatles Stones
offended,
debate
actually.
that we're all.
offended.
That's
It
a
was so
great
good.
song, and that's how you did it.
Yeah. But you know what? I liked how that kind of made the Beatles like a reachable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was one, I worked at Guitar Center for a while, and I worked with this guy, and he gave me all these ripped concert footage. He would be like, "You want to see Zeppelin from '77 here in Cleveland?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he would somehow have footage and would give it to me. "You want to see Sabbath in Cleveland?" I'm like, "Yeah." He ripped me this DVD of Let It Be, which the Disney Plus put it out as Get Back, right? The 9-hour thing.
Right, yeah.
Because of streaming, you can just have content and just put it out there, right? And but before, there was an edited cut of it, right, where it had all the music at the end, which everyone's that's leaked out for forever, them playing on the roof and shit, and seeing them just oh, I don't know, this one's kind of cool, you know what I mean? That, even that little bit of it made it reachable, and I personally get really inspired by watching. I for a while I would try to watch that and go to bed, and I'd be like, oh, I want to write something about nothing now, because that's kind of how anything comes up, right?
It blew my mind because it's just oh my God, they're just like us. They're just even when they were famous.
But to see them like that, just normal guys just writing music, it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah, and then
that's how you did it.
Yeah.
everybody was just annoyed at
Well, and that's how
John Lennon.
Yeah. Well,
That's how we do it. That's how we do it.
Get
Tim.
off my amp, Yoko.
Yeah, that's that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Get Back is what it was. Well, you said Let It Be. I was just I know what he's talking about, but I think that might be the wrong Beatles song.
That's one of my favorite parts of practice is when we just show up and one of us, it literally has been all four of us at some point, probably me only one time, but one of us just starts playing. We're all tuning an instrument, hacking away at the drums or whatever, and then all of a sudden somebody starts something that sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah.
A riff, a bass line, a drum beat that one time. And
You know that time, y'all.
But that's going to be the best song. I keep telling people
right.
that, like, one of
right.
these days,
That's right.
like, Russ is going to leave and come back with this song written. It's going to be, like, the best song that we do.
Damn, what was he?
Who did
Anyway,
he hire
so
to write
someone-
that for
someone
him?
Russ
kicks
is actually
into
the
it.
best songwriter here. He shapes them from the inside.
and we'll jam on it for like 15 minutes to open. And then there's like a probably 50% chance that becomes the next song.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. Like, that's kind of fun that you can literally just walk in. And I think that couldn't have happened the first 2 years that we were knowing each other. So that's just kind of a recent thing where we kind of pick up on that. And then we'll stop it and we'll say, okay, that was cool. Let's play something we already know. And then somebody will go home and send like a phone recording or something. It's nothing sophisticated, but it's pretty cool how it works out.
Yeah. That, like, so I guess to follow that, like, coming from like this background of learning covers so you can play as a group and now writing stuff, in what way has like your influence upon each other pushed you in a certain way to get better at a thing, right? So like, and because I'm talking to each member here to answer that question, like, so in what way has riffs from anyone in this band pushed you as a drummer and like kind of sent you down an inspiration trail of trying to figure out how to play to that or thinking in a way you hadn't before?
Because we have so many different riffs and bass lines that in my head as a drummer cross genres. So like what I like to do is take a beat from one type of music, for instance, a shuffle, but then play it in a heavy metal song.
Okay.
Or
All right.
take a heavy metal song and play it in a blues song. It sounds crazy.
Not really.
and it's
That's
kinda
Pantera,
weird,
dude.
But it works and it's really fun and these guys write creative stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like take a creative drum beat and just put it in a different genre and it kind
And-
of works.
Hell yeah. All right. Yeah. No.
And you know, just to chime in on that, it's just sometimes I'll go home and get behind my kit and I'm like, what the hell was he doing? You know, and I'll listen to it and go like,
Yeah.
holy crap, you know? And that's why I always think of Russ as being like, God, he's the master of coming up with the most unconventional shuffles, you know, but it fits so good with everything that we do. So
That's sick.
it's great to have like a drummer who's not just going to play on top of whatever we're playing. So then it kind of just sounds like popcorn, you know. But then to find something that makes a relatively simple riff just sound so much more fuller and have so much more complexity to it, just because of what the drummer's doing. You know.
Right. Well, and so to reverse that question to you, with working with riffs from everybody, or I guess in this case, rhythms from, or complex shuffles, how's that influenced your approach to like trying to develop something to kind of match that or fit that or grow from that musically?
Well, I got a lot of different influences, obviously, and so I think a lot of I can talk to Russ or I can talk to Tim about a specific song, and Tim's kind of got like this Rolodex of obscure 70s and early 80s, you know, off the wall rock songs.
Most obscure one to date.
The Cherokee one that we talked about last
Indian
week.
reservation.
or the
Good.
Lion. What's that Lion song?
I can't remember the it's by the Young Lions.
Like yeah, that
I don't
song by
know.
the
Green
Young
Eyed Lady.
Lions.
These,
Green-Eyed
or
Lady.
something
Richard and
just
the Young
right
Lions.
off
Richard
the,
and the Young Lions. That was that song. I'd never heard it. That is
we
a
gotta
cool
do
tune.
that. That song is so cool.
Kicks. That is another good Paul Revere one.
That phrase gets said about 100 times a night. It's like, we got to do that one.
we
We
got
got
to
a
cover
backlog
that
of
one.
500. We got a backlog of 500 songs that we got to do.
I don't know. I try to bring a lot of different influence, and sometimes I'll tell Bob, well, you know, you need to go home and listen to like Sonny Boy Williamson or something, you know, and you know if we're you know trying to achieve a certain vocal dexterity or something, you know, and I'll tell Bob, I'm like, you know, sing it lower, sing it, you know, channel your inner Scott Weiland on this. And then sometimes he'll do it, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Fix that.
Shell Scott Weiland, but do it like Buddy Waters.
Yeah,
what?
do it like
That
Buddy
doesn't make
Waters.
sense.
For the record, it was "Open Up Your Door" by Richard and the Young Lions. That
There
is
we
the
go.
obscure Tim song that I think of.
Tim,
All right.
Tim and Russ, we feed
Solid.
off of each other with
And
this
that is obscure.
weird,
'Cause
obscure.
that is weird.
One of the few
So-
benefits of playing rock in the modern era is I can just pull it up on Spotify and be like,
I know,
okay, I
right?
got you. All right.
Just, you know, try doing that 30 years ago, you know. When
Hold on, I got to go to the record store.
like, hold
when it
on, let me
opens,
see if I got this on
See if they
cassette
got it. Maybe they can
somewhere,
get it
you
in
know.
stock. It's like, no, I just pulled it up on Spotify.
I don't know if that answered the question, but
No,
I don't know.
yeah, that
We-
makes sense because
I-
it's working as a group, right?
I try to bring in as many different influences, and it's like because it's weird because I was always like heavy metal guitarists, blues guitarists, the crazy psychedelic rock guitarists, and I remember working at a music store when I was a teenager, and we had this guy that would come in a couple of times a week, and this older guy, and he taught lessons, and he was 180% jazz, and he was
Yeah.
the legitimate jazz musician.
Right.
And I remember I was like, "Hey Frank, I'm trying to get, you know, I'm trying to build up my chops, man. What's a good jazz guitar player to, you know, to like get into?" And he was like, "Oh well, you know, try George Benson." I'm like, "Okay." So
Sure.
I go get a George Benson album. I'm like,
Yeah.
"This is not for me. It's a little bit too much. It's a little too R&B." So I'd come back to him and say, "Okay, what's another one?" And he'd say, "Well, get this artist," you know, and I'd go out and get an album. And then one day he said, you know, and he started asking me questions about like what kind of guitars do I like to play, and you know, I was like, "Well, I'm a big hollow body fan," and, you know, and he was like, "Well, try to get some Wes Montgomery." So I went to this record store and ordered a Wes Montgomery, like the one album that everybody who likes Wes Montgomery has, the Incredible Jazz Guitar. I get into the car, put the cassette in, and within 30 seconds, I'm like, okay, that's the greatest guitar player who has ever lived. And now, God knows how many decades later, I still think Wes Montgomery is the greatest guitar player that ever lived.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, I'm sorry, no one out there, nobody has impressed me as much as he has.
I mean, it's one of those things when you like are ready for jazz and you hear it right. You know what I mean? Like, because I agree, like with Wes Montgomery, like got me way more as far as jazz guitar. Like I started with him before, like, and then I appreciated George Benson later,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
but after you kind of hear what he's doing,
Yeah.
right, and you hear
Well,
how
there's-
he's kind of singing and playing to it,
Yeah,
like,
there's more to George Benson than what you probably, if you're like,
For sure.
Yeah.
But it's you're getting like you have to be bought in a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's like peeling back those primary colors.
Yeah.
And like Wes Montgomery is just one of those that is not, you can't not be like, wow.
I mean,
That or Django Reinhardt.
Django
as far as like
Reinhardt
jazz
would-
guitar
would been
goes.
another one.
Yes.
Him, Joe Pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
John Schofield for me.
Right.
All of those guys that are the traditional jazz guitar players, which, you know, and then like later on, I'd have friends that came over to the house that played guitar, and I'd be like, "Hey, let me show you this." And they're like, "Yeah, do you have like that? You know, where's all the Pantera albums at? Because I want to hear Dimebag play." You know, it's like, what?
Dimebag's sick, dude. Like
Yeah,
it's just a different approach.
it's just a different approach.
Yeah.
you know?
So, but now, Bob, since I've known you the longest, I've like heard your growth through playing with these guys, just from hearing you play by yourself at the Mike Nights and the plethora of gigs we've done together before this evening. You know what I mean? Like, so when I first heard you guys at the gallery, I'm like, this is kind of like the redefined, like focused, like annihilation of Bob the Annihilator. that we were talking about the Mike Night.
That's all right. No, Just try not to.
The Annihilator.
The Annihilator.
So that's a
You met George, right?
That was
Okay.
an inside. That was an
But-
inside joke at Mike Night, where I have a very understated personality. Very, I'm not an outgoing person by nature. Like music's like one of those things where it's like, yes, I express myself. All that cliche stuff, but it's true. And so I would just come up and be like, "Hey guys, I'm Bob. I'm just gonna play some songs." And like barely loud enough for anybody to even hear. And then George, being the outgoing character that he is, he would introduce me as Rob the Annihilator, and he would say it louder and louder each time that he would do it. And he would start adding effects and vocals and all these things, just because I was such a quiet guy, and he'd meant it in the nicest way possible, and I always appreciate it. And but then I would start playing into it like after he was done with all these effects, I'd just be like, as understated as I could. Hey. And I would just try to be like, as completely so that's that joke anyway.
Right. But like from hearing you play from then, I'm sure you can say the same about me too, because you've heard me for as long as then.
Absolutely,
But like I've heard you become like a very solid like front man, singer songwriter. Like it feels like with this group in particular, and you've brought it up multiple times, we've talked, like it's been the most solid group that you've had and consistent, and it seems like everyone here is like flexible in the sense that and that's what makes a band last, is its elasticity, to be able to stretch and mend to what it needs to be, because every gig's gonna be something crazy happens. If you snap, if you're like what's the example I'm looking for? Like if you're like bamboo, you can bend and snap back, but if you're like an oak, you're gonna snap in half and not recover.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, mistakes happen and stuff like that. You carry on.
Right. Mistakes happen. People can't be there. Stuff's taken lightly, which makes it way more impactful. But like just to see you front it, and right, like I'm seeing like this solid, like vocally solid, guitar solid. It's like all the training from the Mike Nights is now like put into place.
Yeah, Mike Nights. I started playing solo stuff a couple years ago. Like after a cover band I was in, and I decided to leave. I think that had a lot to do with my growth as well. I mean, because when you're just by yourself and you're playing in front of people, like Mike and Night is one thing. A lot of things are taken care of. Well, you got to show up you got to make sure you got all your cables, everything there, sound system good enough to cover the space and everything like that. I mean, I already had experience like, booking gigs and everything like that for bands. But when you're not part of a unit and you're just by yourself, like you miss having people around you. And now it's like, well, part of a unit, stronger, and it's going well so far. So,
Oh yeah. Was it? And so Tim, to kind of get your perspective on how hanging out with these dudes how to get your perspective shit. On how hanging with these guys has kind of inspired, molded, shaped your musicianship.
Okay, so Russ is the first drummer I've ever played with.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a big deal as a bass player.
Shocking. Yeah, shocking.
I don't know.
Ooh. Yeah.
Breaking news.
I'd never actually played in a band before. I did the orchestra
Sound effects go here.
thing,
Yeah.
and that was great. My orchestra teacher, I still talk to him to this day.
Yeah.
He taught me everything about music theory. He was really behind me 100% when I was in school, and we were into the same music. That we listened to the same stuff.
How old is this guy?
He's got to be 70 something now. Okay. But he actually plays bass in a band right now in Akron.
Yeah? What band?
The Pretenders.
Can't tell you. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you the name of it. They've actually just started gigging.
They signed a do not disclose, thing or something like that. He's not allowed at liberty to say their name.
Yeah, but I'm so easy and laid back. I just is what you guys want to do? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Beautiful. So, all right. So now, Bob, you were reaching out to me, and there's some gigs afoot, right?
So
this is we'll start to do some plugging and like future talking now that we kind of brought back the origin story, and I tend to like to focus on that because I feel like with anyone's origin story, for anything, that's the point in which someone can catch on and then be like and log off at the same time, right? So they'd be, I understood that whole story. I know hanging out with the grandpa and like, you know, doing whatever, but you are now talking about, you know, playing with Paul McCartney or whatever. Now it's, whoa, how'd that happen? But so I feel like that beginning relatable part is a super important thing to like hear from everyone, because it's like, this is where it could go, right? And now let's take it to what's on the docket. So
we got we're going to be playing the Rialto Theater on December 19th.
Right.
Just making sure I said it right. Yep.
December 19th.
Yeah,
December
that's-
19th.
Yeah.
Let's make sure, because
Penciled into my
yeah,
brain.
That's Thursday.
let's make sure, because my wife found an advert for it, and it was actually advertised, I believe, for the 20th, and the show is supposed to start at 8 a.m.
That may be a typo.
I
have
think
the
that's
19th
wrong.
in the
I'm pretty sure it's for the 19th. For the listeners,
for the
We don't-
listeners, the
I don't-
rabid
it's
fans
It's
who want
the
to be
breakfast show.
who want to be right there at 5:30.
yeah, my wife
And,
pointed that
you
out. I
know,
was like, "What time are you guys
get
playing?"
2 tickets to the show and bottomless mimosas.
That's
Ba-boom.
right.
So the 19th at the Rialto Theater in
Yeah.
Akron,
That's right.
and
We'll be playing with another.
We're going to be playing with Carolina. She's an independent singer-songwriter,
okay,
and you know, I was having a hard time finding her stuff on social media. Lack of not for lack of trying, but I'm sure she's wonderful. If the Rialto knows her, I mean, you look at the Rialto Theater and what they're doing for local music and everything, and you know what the recordings do and everything. Like, we're really excited to go down there.
Yeah,
That's where we
we're
caught
really
some of
excited.
the bands we've caught.
That was one of those places where I think I found it, and then I went there like for like a Friday night show or something, and I was like, "This is a really nice place.
Yeah.
Like, this is great to have a group of guys that are like promoting this for original
right.
groups, and just because the theater's beautiful and just the whole vibe of it is really cool. So I'm extremely excited for it.
And the chef that they have there is top notch.
Oh, okay.
Top notch.
Top notch.
Is that right? Is there food?
You don't
Yeah,
know.
There is food there.
Yeah.
It's
Russ,
very good.
You missed out, man. Russ was
It's
under the
very
weather when
good.
we went down to check out some bands down there.
Yeah.
Back a little while ago. We met some of the guys who you know, the owners were there, and you know,
That's sick.
everything, yeah.
And then, is that how this came together?
Kind of took a personal tour of the place.
No,
Whoa.
yeah, we may have wandered upstairs into the recording studio just to be like, okay, and then we were like, oh, we should probably get out of here. Anyway, but no, we got.
Bob and Tim did that, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, we got the information there, and you know, followed. It was so we will. So it's like, are you guys ready to play out? It's like that awkward question. It's like, we're almost
Yes,
there.
we are.
And like,
Yes.
like we took. Well, here's the thing though. It's just like the whole time, like we have not rushed this whole thing. We
Yeah.
just let it evolve. So it's like I don't want to. People make that mistake. It's just like, okay, guys, now we got to do it. Now we got to do it. Now they push too hard, then they lose what's good about the band in the first place.
So we have 4 weeks to write like 10 songs.
Yeah, no. We're good, but like we waited till we were like, you know, it's like, okay, I think we're ready. All right, we're cool, and that's why I contacted you, you know, Negative Space and everything like
Right.
that, and rolled that out there. That went well, and you know, we got this lined up. We're going to be playing Front Street Social January 17th. After that, and we got some other feelers out, and we're just trying to get some dates solidified on the calendar, and hopefully 2025 is going to be a good year for us.
Hell yeah.
Going for more.
And I like how you said that, to take it slow and just kind of like let it grow at its own pace and not try to like rush certain things, because a lot of this music industry or anything is yes I can.
Yeah, right.
Right. Yes. Theremin, why not? You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely. This is your one and only chance to play this venue. If you don't open up for these, it's like, well,
right.
It's like, but you know,
Okay, well,
we've been
thanks.
we've been I mean, we haven't run into that, you know, yet.
Well, I'm
And
sure
I-
venue-wise, you're not going to run into something like
no,
that.
people
but
are
like,
cool around here. I mean, they really are, and we've you know, we've gotten some good feedback, and we've gotten some touch base with some people and everything. So we're really happy with the way things are going, and we're really looking forward to playing the Rialto on the December 19th on Thursday. Shameless plug, but
No, this is the
it's a
time to do
podcast
it.
about us. Yeah, right.
It's the time to do it. This is I'm
probably
gonna,
do
Exactly 7. Well, I don't know when the
well,
doors open.
yeah,
at
time's
7.
never exactly.
Yeah, don't
right.
listen to any of
Don't
the
listen
times
to
I
the
threw out
times.
here because I'm like trying to remember off the top of my head. And that's never a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the breakfast buffet is off.
The breakfast buffet
That's
is.
not a thing.
Well, we
Does not
might
have-
we might do a 8 a.m. gig at some point
They-
in
they-
time. I'm not saying
That'd be
I'm not
the
throwing that
worst
out. I know,
gig
right?
in the world.
We're gonna
Oh,
get an email later tonight. Say, actually, guys, we did book you to do the brunch.
this is the
I didn't
Rialto
know you guys
brunch.
do that, but we just got to move some things around.
God, that means I got to get there at like 5.
You guys are going on right after 2 consecutive episodes of The Love Boat. So
Look, if I see
Gotta
Eggs
keep people
Benedict,
awake.
I ain't playing.
Oh, Tim, he's got to have a sunny side up.
At 8 a.m., Tim, well, you've at that point you'd have been up like what 3 hours?
No, 8 a.m. No, 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, moving forward with this, but like as far as like recording goes, you guys have 10 songs written. Are they finished written? Are they demoed? Are they
Finished
recorded?
We have some demos that we are. I do some mixing in Reaper and and things like that. So I put together a demo reel that's currently on our SoundCloud, and we've been sending it out to venues and everything like that. And it's good. It's definitely decent quality demo, but I'm not a professional sound engineer as much as I'd like to think that I'm getting up there. But
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's a good sample of like what we can do. It's I think, I mean, eventually, yeah, I'd like to get into a studio and actually put this down, get this stuff down.
I can't wait to get.
I think I came to these guys at one point and was like, look, my dream is to write an album, record it, and have it pressed on vinyl. Because I feel like that's the only medium that our music could probably be showcased in, either live or if you're gonna listen to it, you want to listen to it on vinyl. So that's like something that like a personal goal for me.
Right.
So.
No, I relate to that goal.
Oh, good.
I don't think we're alone in that. I think a lot of people.
I think we can make it
I
out.
think if you feel really solid about your music, vinyl just feels so
Official.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you can just hold it, and it's just it's a tangible instead of saying, well, you can download it on,
Right.
It's personal to us at that point. It's just like, well, I'm just,
See our show and buy it from us for $40.
yeah, it's vinyl worthy to us, but
50.
50?
Absolutely.
Like,
Sign
but
it for 75.
there's some places that do. But no, I totally, and like it's when it means that much to you to get pressed like that, especially from a local act, that's a lot of money to put into that, So like I definitely relate to like as far as someone who would want to pick up something like that, I think that's kind of like a known thing. And like when you feel that confident to do it, it's a special like, this is it, man. We did a thing, man. You know what I mean? And I think people react to that from a local group. I think people react to like, whoa, you made a vinyl.
Well, oddly enough, I'm going to throw Russ under the train. Oddly enough, Russ wants to do a double album and release that as our first album. And I'm like, man, that's some ballsy
that's
shit.
clearly because
That's some
of my obsession with Physical Graffiti being the best Led Zeppelin album of the group. So
that's ballsy, man.
As
A debut album as a double
double
album.
record, yeah,
Man, that's
We have so much to say.
we are that sick.
Well, so it's something you guys are actively thinking about
we're
as far as
thinking about
recording.
it. Yeah, we'd
Okay.
like to do it. Things are. I don't know. I don't want to talk about politics or the economy, but the prices of recording nowadays is. You can do it yourself, or you can go to a studio. It just depends on what you want, I guess, as the overall product.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that you're not going to be able to do at the house,
Right.
With whatever equipment you have that you can obviously you can go to a studio and do.
For sure. And just this expertise that you don't have as a musician, as a player, as someone who's like, I'm putting my thing forward. You know what I mean? Like, I need someone to be like behind there. I work better working with someone to be like, yeah, that was a good take, but do it again. You know what I mean? Or like, why you keep doing this? It's fine. You know what I mean? Like, just to have someone there and be like, to not have to worry about how to mix to like the frequencies that cancel each other out. You know what I mean? Like, I will pay for someone's expertise with that. I would gladly learn it, but you know what I mean? Like, you can spend your time doing that or writing, and like in a band like this, someone could totally do that. You know what I mean? And someone can totally write and it can work like that. But you know, pulling up your friends and reaching out to people only widens the net of what you're doing to some degree and gets more people into what you do, or not. I don't know. Depends on the interaction, but you know what I mean? Like, I tend to think like it widens the net and welcomes more, and it gives you another person to put on that double album's name that, hey, they supported us. And
it would probably have to take a couple more people than
The
us
album
to-
art is going to be immense.
I
on the
can't-
double album.
I can't imagine.
I mean, we're talking booklet
yeah.
and probably a hidden booklet in the back sleeve.
Stu, you gotta get going.
You open up the gatefold and something's gonna pop up.
This is going to be everything I wanted as a child buying it from a
Absolutely.
Quonset hut.
Yes.
I wanted to wander in and find the
3D
greatest
glasses.
album art.
Stu's got to write this all down
a
because
ticket.
he drew the owl that is our logo right now.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, I mean, he's
Hell yeah.
gonna
Well,
obviously be the guy.
I drew it, but I give a lot of credit to my wife because she's been so supportive as far as the art of you know what we have. So my wife painted it, and she's always like, you know, if I draw something, I'm like, what do you think about this? And she's like, no, don't use that. You know, or she'll say, no, make the ears bigger, or you know. But yeah, she painted it, and so I kind of feel like without her support and influence, I probably wouldn't be able to do a lot of the stuff. So
Yeah.
I give a lot of credit.
well, that outside influence from anywhere is you need some type of constructive feedback that you can trust.
Yeah.
And that's for
Exactly.
anyone doing anything, like creative wise. But
We got to start working on that double album cover though, because I don't know how that's going to.
it's gonna be an owl, the wings open up.
Never mind the songs
into
for
an
the double album. We
inverted
just need the
cross,
cover.
and there's going to be a lot of weird runes, and you know.
Will there be some pop-up art?
I was thinking a concert ticket inside one of the
I'm
folds.
picturing
you know?
Stonehenge popping up.
Yeah, like a pop. Yeah, like an old
Pop-up
like a
Stonehenge.
kid. Yeah,
Friends.
with a concert ticket that comes out of the. You know,
Yeah. For the
Hello, Cleveland.
and like a list of like all of our catering demands for like.
Only the brown M&Ms.
But
they're all brown on the inside.
but
Oh my god.
yeah,
I never
but
thought about that till right now.
Oh, my mind is blown.
at the same time though, I kind of feel like this is a studio band. It's either going to be a band that we're going to excel with live performances, but this isn't really necessarily like a demo is probably going to only get us so far. I feel like this is a studio band. We eventually we need to start looking into that in the future. So
I hope you guys do, and I hope you do it soon. And I hope you do it soon enough so you can send me the thing and we can talk about the tracks and get more specific with maybe our next meeting. But thank you all for hanging out and let me have. Fuck, I said thank you so weird. I'm gonna do that again.
You'll fix it up in post.
I'm gonna fix it in post. But no, thank you guys so much for having me here at
no problem. It was great.
at the HQ and doing this and listening to some other episodes. And it's Bob, it's been a pleasure to see you grow as a musician and find homies that are down to do it. And it's cool to be able to be like, hey, you want to play a bill? You know what I mean? Like, I personally like it when my friends are doing good, because that makes that everyone do good. If everyone's doing what they want to do and having a good time doing it. So I look forward to the next time we talk, hopefully, and it's for the record. We got these shows coming up. But yeah. So with that being said, thank you for hanging out, friends.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Yo, Spike Spiegel here. You just listened to Zig of the Gig podcast. Keep riding the bebop. See you, Space Cowboy. Bang.